Now let me ask y'all this. What happens when the very visa that built thousands of Indian dreams in America suddenly becomes a weapon in politics? What happens when India, the country that sends the brightest minds to Silicon Valley, finally says, hold up, enough is enough? And what happens if this H1B visa issue pushes two of the world's biggest powers, India and America, into real tension? Is this just a temporary storm or the beginning of a global shift? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll see why the whole world is watching every single move. Imagine this. For decades, the H1B visa has been the golden ticket. Thousands of young, ambitious Indians pack their bags, leave their families behind, and land in America with one dream: to make it big. And let's be real, many of them do. They're running tech companies, leading innovation, writing the code that keeps Silicon Valley alive. But here's the twist. What happens when that very golden ticket starts looking more like a trap? Because right now, that's exactly what it feels like. The H1B was supposed to be about opportunity. You bring in the best talent from around the world and America benefits. But slowly the rules have changed. Caps have been tightened. Application processes made tougher. And the message coming out of Washington is clear: we don't want as many of you anymore. That's a dangerous shift. Not just for Indian workers, but for America itself. Think about it. Nearly 70% of H1B visas go to Indians. We're talking about software engineers, data scientists, healthcare professionals, the folks who literally keep the machine running. Without them, Silicon Valley slows down. Innovation slows down. The very competitive edge that America brags about starts to slip. And yet, instead of protecting that pipeline of talent, the U.S. is treating it like a bargaining chip. Now here's where the trap comes in. For many Indians, the H1B is a dream that can quickly turn into a nightmare. You're tied to your employer. You can't easily switch jobs. You live under constant fear. What if your visa isn't renewed? What if the rules change overnight? And worse, what if your kids who've grown up in the U.S. suddenly find themselves without status? It's a level of uncertainty that eats away at families year after year. And let's not forget the politics behind all this. Every election cycle, the H1B visa gets pulled out like a card to play to voters. We're protecting American jobs. But here's the truth. Most of these jobs aren't being taken away from Americans. They're jobs created because of this talent pipeline. The irony. While America is pushing people out, countries like Canada, Germany, and even India itself are opening their doors wider. They're saying, hey, if America doesn't want you, come here. We'll take your skills, your ideas, and your energy. So the trap is twofold. On one side, Indian professionals are stuck in a cycle of uncertainty, unable to fully plant their roots in America. On the other side, the U.S. risks losing the very minds that have been driving its success. And if India finally decides to call out this imbalance, the ripple effect could be massive. Because this isn't just about visas anymore. It's about power, pride, and who really controls the future of global talent. India has played the polite partner for a long time. Whenever Washington tightened rules around the H1B visa, New Delhi would issue a carefully worded statement, maybe a small nudge, but nothing that could shake the boat. But that tone is changing. For the first time, India is no longer whispering, it's warning. The message is loud and clear. This isn't just about visas. This is about how you treat us as a partner. And when a rising superpower like India starts sending that kind of signal, you know something big is shifting in the balance of power. Why does this matter so much? Because the H1B visa isn't just paperwork. It's a symbol. It represents opportunity, dignity, and the role of Indian talent in powering America's success. For years, Indian professionals have kept U.S. companies ahead of the curve. Yet, when restrictions pile up, it feels less like partnership and more like exploitation. India is now saying, if you can't respect our people, don't expect us to play along quietly. This warning carries weight because India has leverage it never had before. The global economy is tilting and India is right in the middle of it. Tech giants are opening massive campuses in Bengaluru and Hyderabad. Startups in India are booming, creating their own unicorns without needing American soil. And let's not forget defense, trade, and diplomacy. Areas where the U.S. needs India just as much, if not more, than India needs the U.S. The visa issue in this light isn't small, it's a pressure point. Think of it like this. America needs allies to counterbalance China, to strengthen its supply chains, to keep influence in Asia. Who's the natural partner? India. But how long can you treat your partner's people unfairly before that relationship cracks? That's exactly what New Delhi is hinting at. It's saying, don't test us, don't take us for granted. And that's not just rhetoric, it's strategy. The interesting part here is how India is framing the narrative. It's not begging for visas. It's not saying, oh, please let more of our engineers in. Instead, it's reframing the whole issue as a matter of respect. You can't call India a strategic ally in one sentence and then make life miserable for Indian workers in the next. That contradiction weakens trust, and in geopolitics, trust is everything. Now picture the ripple effect of this warning. If America keeps tightening its visa policies, India could respond in ways Washington won't like. It could shift more talent toward Europe, encourage professionals to stay home and build India's own tech empire, or even use diplomatic channels to make visas part of larger trade deals. Suddenly, something that used to be brushed off as a work permit issue becomes a full-scale diplomatic negotiation. This is the moment where the visa story turns into a power story. India is not just reacting, it's setting terms. And that's the warning Washington can't afford to ignore. Money talks, and in this story it screams. The H1B visa issue isn't just about people moving across borders. It's about billions of dollars flowing in and out of the global economy. Think about the scale. Indian professionals on H1B visas aren't just earning salaries. They're fueling entire industries. They're the ones keeping America's tech companies profitable, driving innovation, and making sure Wall Street keeps smiling. If you pull that thread, the entire fabric of the U.S. economy starts to look shaky. That's why this issue cuts so deep. It's not just personal, it's financial. Take Silicon Valley as an example. Nearly every major tech company, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, you name it, has been powered by Indian engineers and developers. These are the folks building apps, designing systems, and solving problems that keep America ahead of the game. But here's the twist. Many of them are stuck in the H1B cycle, unable to fully settle, invest, or grow roots. That uncertainty doesn't just affect families, it affects businesses. Companies hesitate, projects stall, and long-term planning becomes a gamble. When visas turn into shackles, the entire economy pays the price. Now flip the coin. Imagine if India said, oh, we're done waiting. If America won't treat our talent fairly, we'll bring them back home. What happens then? Suddenly, the billions of dollars these professionals generate don't go into the U.S. economy. They fuel India's own growth. And let's be honest, India is ready for that. With a booming digital sector, a young population, and government initiatives like a Digital India and a Make in India, the stages. Those same minds who built America's tech revolution could easily power India's rise to becoming the world's next innovation hub. And don't overlook remittances. Indian workers in America send billions back home every year. That money supports families, builds homes, and boosts India's economy indirectly. But if those workers stay in India or move to other countries with friendlier visa policies, the U.S. loses out big time. Canada, Germany, and Australia are already positioning themselves to scoop up this talent. They're offering smoother immigration pathways, permanent residency, and the stability that H1B holders crave. That's billions of dollars America is risking voluntarily. The business community knows this. You can hear it in the way tech CEOs lobby Washington every time visa restrictions tighten. They know the cost of losing Indian talent is astronomical. It's not just about filling jobs, it's about keeping America competitive in a world where innovation is the currency of power. If the talent pipeline dries up, the U.S. risks falling behind in AI, cybersecurity, biotech, and every field that defines the future. So when we talk about the H1B visa issue, we're really talking about money, power, and global dominance. India's warning to America isn't just emotional, it's economic. If Washington doesn't ease up, those billions could start flowing eastward and the U.S. will have nobody to blame but itself. Every big story in geopolitics has layers, and the H1B visa fight is no different. On the surface, it looks like a legal and economic issue. Rules, caps, quotas, and renewals. But peel that back, and you'll see it's actually a chess game of global politics. Because when Washington decides to tighten the screws on Indian workers, it's not just about visas, it's about leverage. And when India pushes back, it's not just defending its citizens, it's claiming its rightful seat at the big table. Let's call it what it is, a power struggle. America wants control. It wants to decide who comes in, how long they stay, and under what conditions. It wants to keep its companies dependent on foreign talent, but not give those workers enough stability to plant roots. That's not just bureaucracy. That's strategy. By keeping Indian professionals tied to temporary visas, Washington keeps India's leverage limited. Or at least that's what it thought. India, on the other hand, sees the bigger picture. This isn't about a few thousand visas. It's about dignity and positioning. New Delhi knows its people are America's secret weapon. They're in the boardrooms, the labs, the startups, the classrooms, shaping the very industries America relies on. So when the U.S. tries to play tough, India reads it as more than immigration policy. It reads it as a test of respect. And India's warning is basically saying, we see the game, and we're ready to play our own. Now here's where it gets interesting, China. America's entire foreign policy today revolves around containing Beijing's rise. To do that, it needs allies, strong, reliable allies. India is the obvious choice. But how do you build a trusted alliance if you're simultaneously making life harder for Indian workers and students in America? It's like calling someone your best friend, but refusing to let them in your house. That contradiction is where the tension brews. This visa issue becomes part of a larger negotiation. Defense deals, trade agreements, supply chain cooperation, all of it can be influenced by how the U.S. treats Indian professionals. And don't think India hasn't noticed. Diplomats in New Delhi are already framing the H1B issue as part of a broader conversation. They're essentially saying, you want our cooperation on the world stage? Then treat our people fairly. And here's the suspenseful part. If America ignores this warning, India has other options. It can deepen ties with Europe, lean on its growing partnership with Russia, or even use BRICS and other global South platforms to build alternative coalitions. That shifts the balance of power. Suddenly, the U.S. isn't the only game in town. And all because it didn't see the visa issue for what it truly is, a symbol of trust and respect in the bigger geopolitical picture. So no, this isn't about paperwork. This is about power. The H1B fight is just one move on the board, but it's a move that could decide whether India stands shoulder to shoulder with America or walks its own path. When you hear the term absolute South, it might sound abstract, but let me break it down. It's about power shifting from the old centers, Washington, London, Brussels, to the rising voices of the global South. And guess who's sitting at the head of that table? India. Now, here's where the H1B visa fight connects. This isn't just about America versus India anymore. It's about the entire global South watching to see how the U.S. treats one of their champions. And if India flexes, the ripple effect won't just stop at the visa counters. It could reshape alliances worldwide. Think of it this way. For decades, the U.S. held the upper hand because it controlled opportunities. If you wanted to make it big in tech, finance, or academia, America was the destination. The H1B visa was proof of that dominance, but times have changed. India is no longer the junior partner waiting for scraps. It's the leader of a coalition that represents billions of people across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And when India takes a stand, others take notes. So imagine this scenario. India tells Washington, you can't keep restricting our people while calling us your ally. What happens next? Nations in Africa, Southeast Asia, even Latin America could start questioning their own relationships with America. They might say, if the U.S. treats India like this, what chance do we have? That's the absolute South effect. America risks not just alienating India, but losing credibility with the entire global South. Meanwhile, India has options. Through platforms like BRICS and the G20, it's been building its role as the voice of emerging economies. It's already offering training programs, digital partnerships, and trade deals to countries that feel sidelined by the West. So when the U.S. tightens visas, India can flip the script. We don't need America's doors open. We're building our own house, and it's bigger than theirs. That's a powerful message. Now let's talk impact. If Indian talent gets redirected back to India or into other global South countries, the U.S. doesn't just lose workers, it loses influence. Soft power takes a hit. America's universities attract fewer international students. Its companies struggle to recruit the best engineers. Its reputation as the eland of opportunity starts to fade. And all the while, India positions itself as the alternative. A country where innovation is booming, where the young and ambitious can build without visas, without restrictions, without second-class treatment. And here's the kicker. When the global South sees India standing up to America over something as specific as the H1B visa, it becomes a symbol. It tells billions of people, you don't have to play by the old rules anymore. You can demand respect. You can chart your own path. That's not just policy, that's transformation. So in the end, this visa battle isn't about numbers, it's about momentum. If India pushes back and wins, it sends a message across the world. The South is rising and the old powers better take notice. And if America ignores that, it might just find itself standing alone while the global South builds a future of its own. Do you want me to now stitch all 5 expanded key points together with the hook into a complete 16, 18-minute YouTube script, or keep them as separate parts for you to arrange? So here's the bottom line. This H1B visa issue ain't just about paperwork, it ain't just about jobs, and it sure ain't just about who gets to stay in America. This is about respect, leverage, and the future of global power. India has been patient for years, but patience has its limits. Now the world is watching to see if Washington listens, or if New Delhi decides to flip the script and write its own rules. The real question is this: will America treat India as a true partner or as a pawn to control? Because one thing's for sure, India is no pawn anymore. And if this visa fight sparks a bigger shift, it won't just shake up US-India ties, it could rewrite the balance of the entire world. So stay ready, because what looks like a visa issue today might just be the headline that defines tomorrow's global order.